July 18th, 2018, the city of Brooklyn, Iowa. Population, just 1,500 people. A place where everyone knows each other, where doors aren't locked at night, a picturesque, quiet, and completely safe town. The time is approaching 7 p.m. 20-year-old Mollie Tibbetts is getting ready for a run. It's her usual way of ending a beautiful summer day. Height, 5 feet 2 inches, weight, 119 pounds, brown eyes, a wide smile. She studies psychology at the University of Iowa. During summer break, she works part-time at a children's day camp. The kids adore her. Her co-workers respect her. She has no enemies, no criminal connections, and no dark secrets. A completely stable and positive environment. Before leaving, she grabs her phone and texts her boyfriend. His name is Dalton Jack. Dalton is currently out of town. He's working construction in the city of Dubuque, 140 miles from home. While he's away, Mollie is staying at his house, taking care of his dogs. Then, her usual ritual begins. Phone notifications are turned off. The music volume in her headphones is set to maximum. She walks out the door and runs. Later that evening, Dalton finishes work. He reads the message from his girlfriend and sends a reply. But Mollie stays silent. The young man isn't too worried. He thinks she's just exhausted after her run, came back, took a shower, and went to bed early. Morning of July 19th arrives. Dalton picks up his phone and sends her a traditional good morning text, wishing her an easy wake up and a good day. It's their daily ritual, but the screen remains unanswered. Time passes. The shift at the children's day camp begins. Kids are arriving, counselors are getting ready for work, but Mollie Tibbetts doesn't show up. Her coworkers are surprised, but not alarmed. They assume she just overslept, maybe forgot to set an alarm. For responsible Mollie, this behavior is completely out of character. But no one is immune to a phone glitch. People wait. Concern only starts to grow after noon. One of the camp employees, busy with tasks, suddenly stops. She realizes it's almost lunchtime and Tibbetts still isn't there. She finds the number of her boyfriend, Dalton Jack, calls him, figures that since they live together, he must know something, but Dalton says he hasn't been able to reach her since last night. After learning that Mollie never showed up for work, the young man understands. Something is wrong. From that moment, panic begins. He calls Mollie's family, calls his brother, and asks him to urgently go to his house to check if everything is okay. Dalton's brother arrives at the address. The door opens. Silence inside. No one is home. Only 2 hungry dogs that rush toward him happily. Judging by the situation, the animals spent the night completely alone. No one fed them or let them outside. The brother looks around the house. Mollie's belongings are on the couch, but her running outfit and sneakers are nowhere to be found. The bed clearly hadn't been slept in. The bathroom and sink were completely dry. That's physically impossible if Mollie had returned from her run. She would have at least taken a shower, or at the very least washed her face and brushed her teeth in the morning. The conclusion hits with an icy chill. By all indications, she hasn't been here since the previous evening. Her relatives are calling non-stop. They contact friends, acquaintances, hospitals. No one saw anything. No one knows anything. Hours fly by in a blur of chaos and fear. Around 6 p.m., Mollie Tibbetts' parents can't take it anymore. They go to the Brooklyn police station. Deputy Sheriff Steve Kiwi takes the report. He treats the parents' words with the utmost seriousness. The officer immediately contacts Special Agent Trent Valletta. This is the state's Criminal Investigation Division. The decision seems premature. Only 24 hours have passed. But Steve Kiwi sees the mother's eyes. The family insists in one voice. Mollie is not the kind of person who runs away. She couldn't have just disappeared on purpose. She was taken. A large-scale search begins. Almost the entire Brooklyn community quickly joins in. People flood the streets. Residents from neighboring towns drop everything and come to help. Feel scared, nervous, and anxious. We hope we find her today, volunteers say on camera. But night falls and there are still no leads. The family raises funds, desperately hoping that Mollie is alive, that this is just a kidnapping for money, that someone will demand a ransom, or be tempted by the massive reward and bring her back, or that at least one witness will come forward, a witness whose silence could be broken by a large sum of money. Police hold an emergency press conference. The level of publicity increases 100-fold. This is no longer a local case. This is a case for the entire country. Donations start pouring in from every state. As of 10 a.m., we have raised $172,000. Which will be paid to you as soon as Mollie safely returns home, the family announces to all of America. The reward rapidly increases, and soon reaches a record $320,000. Her loved ones beg the kidnappers, cry in front of cameras. Everyone has their own Mollie in life. Someone who has made an impact on them. Imagine it's you, and someone took your Mollie. Wouldn't you want her back? Just do the right thing. Let her go. But the phone remains silent. There are no ransom demands. At the same time, detectives are already conducting their own hard investigation. They have their own rules of the game. and the first one, suspect those closest. The first potential suspect becomes Dalton Jack, Mollie Tibbetts' boyfriend, the one whose house she was staying in. In this unfortunate role, the young man remains for only a couple of tense hours. Dalton doesn't shut down. He provides all the necessary information, and most importantly, solid, undeniable evidence. He was in another city, in Dubuque, at a construction site. That's 140 miles from Brooklyn. Investigators check everything. There are witnesses, his co-workers. There is cell tower data confirming his phone never left Dubuque. There's a receipt from a local store where Dalton bought beer and snacks on the evening Mollie went for her run. And finally, there is surveillance footage from the hotel where the work crew was staying. He's clean, he physically could not have harmed her. Police crossed Dalton off the list of suspects, and there's no one else to check. Mollie had no ties to bad crowds, no suspicious people in her circle, no debts and no enemies. It's obvious, she simply crossed paths with someone on an empty road. To maximize the chances of finding Mollie, detectives turn to her digital trail. They ask her family for passwords. They have her iCloud password. Investigators take a new iPhone. They download a backup of her data from the cloud. They create an exact clone of her phone to read every single detail. But the smartphone itself reveals nothing suspicious. No secret conversations, no hidden calls, no strange contacts and messaging apps. A request to the mobile carrier proves far more useful. They demand a detailed report, exactly which cell towers her phone connected to, and at what times during that ill-fated run. This allows them to reconstruct her exact route, and even calculate the speed at which she was moving between sectors. But that's not all. Her loved ones say she always used a Fitbit smartwatch, an activity tracker on her wrist. Special Agent Trent Valletta requests a warrant. He demands the company provide data from Mollie's device stored on their servers. Investigators want to understand her habits. Which road did Tibbetts usually run? Where did she typically turn? They see that she never changed her route, so any deviation that evening is a signal that she encountered an attacker. Meanwhile, the search operation reaches enormous mastabe. The entire country is helping Mollie's family. Helicopters in the sky and thousands of volunteers on the ground are joined by divers. They check every pond and body of water around Brooklyn. The FBI officially joins the case. 4 days pass since Mollie disappeared. There are still no traces of the missing woman. The priority right now is to determine where Mollie's phone last pinged a cell tower, police say. And finally, they receive a detailed report. According to the data, on July 18th, Mollie was moving along County Road 385. Her average speed was 9 to 10 miles per hour. This is a typical running pace, but only up to a certain point. Then the graph shows a sudden stop, and immediately after that, her iPhone begins moving much faster. The speed jumps to around 60 miles per hour, and of course this surge happens completely outside her usual running route. The conclusion is obvious and terrifying. The device, and most likely Mollie Tibbetts herself, were already inside the perpetrator's vehicle. Now investigators understand roughly where she disappeared. They know the area where her phone signal abruptly cut off. But there's one problem. Each tower covers a massive area. It's impossible to pinpoint an exact location this way, only a general zone. Nevertheless, police adjust the direction of the search based on the new data. Thousands of people comb through grid sections, but it leads nowhere. Not after a week, not after 2, not even after 3. Hope of finding Mollie alive is rapidly fading, but in its place grows a determination to catch the perpetrator and bring justice. A group of officers spends days on end at the station. They study dozens of hours of video footage obtained from property owners along Mollie's route. There isn't much of it, and the quality is frankly terrible. Pixels break into gray blocks. They have to strain their eyes, checking every fleeting movement on screen. Most of the time, it's not even a human figure, just what looks like a small dark speck somewhere in the distance. And only in the second half of August, almost a month after the student disappeared, they notice something that gives them hope to uncover the truth. On one of the recordings, a tiny dark silhouette appears. It quickly runs past a house. It's clearly a girl. Even in the blurry footage, you can see her ponytail bouncing as she moves. Moreover, the location is exactly on her route, and it lies within the very area where her phone signal suddenly stopped. And shortly after Mollie Tibbetts runs past, a car appears on the video. A black Chevrolet Malibu. Officers pause the footage, zoom in. The car isn't factory standard. It's been lightly customized. Chrome door handles, rims, and shiny mirrors. The car is driving in the exact direction Mollie was heading. Investigators realize they must have crossed paths, but only seconds passed. It's unlikely the driver could have done anything on the move. Then the same black Malibu appears on screen again. After some time, it follows the same path as before, meaning the vehicle made a loop, and that already raises serious questions. Less than a minute later, the Chevrolet appears again, but this time, it's driving in the opposite direction. There's only one conclusion: the driver was circling, looking for her on that empty road. Now the main task is to find out who was behind the wheel. The license plate can't be read on the blurry footage, and fate, it seems, decides to smile on those searching so desperately. The very next day, Deputy Sheriff Steve Kiwi spots the Malibu. He's simply driving home on his day off, and suddenly sees a black Chevrolet with chrome handles and mirrors. Kiwi immediately calls Special Agent Trent Valletta. He asks for advice on what to do. The agent says, follow the car, talk to the driver, and invite him in for questioning. He immediately heads out with his colleagues to assist, just in case the suspect is armed and might resist. The car is pulled over, but the driver behaves completely calmly. His name is Christian Bahena Rivera. He is 24 years old, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico. He doesn't speak English. He answers questions through his boss, who acts as a translator. Rivera agrees to go to the station and allows his vehicle to be taken for a full inspection. But at the department, a major problem arises. They need a Spanish-speaking detective. And in a small town like Brooklyn, there simply isn't one. The only option is Officer Pamela Romero from another department. But she has no experience investigating serious criminal cases, and especially not interviewing murder suspects. It's a huge risk for the case. One wrong word, and defense attorneys could tear it apart in court. But there's no choice. Romero agrees to help. The interrogation starts easily. Pamela Romero introduces herself, smiles. Rivera talks about his routine. I get to work around 5 or 5:30 in the morning. I leave around 5 in the evening, about 12 hours a day. He already told Steve Kiwi that he had heard about the missing girl, but doesn't know details and has nothing to do with it. Romero asks how he knows about it. From posters and everything else, many friends shared the information on Facebook. The man replies calmly. Who else drives it besides you? She asks. Only me, Christian confirms. Then Pamela Romero makes it clear why he's here. She shows him footage of his car, seconds before Mollie disappeared. Is that the same car? Yes. Is that your car? Yes. Rivera starts dodging, claims he was driving to visit some relative, but Officer Romero doesn't back down. I think you're hiding one more small detail from me, something you haven't told me yet. Christian sighs. That time, I looked at her, nothing more. Did you like her? Did you find her attractive? Pamela presses. She was pretty, but I didn't look at her face. You only noticed her body? Well, yeah. And then they hit a dead end. I was there, I saw her, but I didn't do anything, the suspect repeats. Police don't believe it, but they don't yet have direct evidence. And Rivera keeps insisting, I don't feel bad because, well, I didn't do anything. What else do you want me to say? I have nothing else to say. You do have something to say, but you're afraid because you know it will change your life, Pamela replies. The interrogation goes on for many hours, with short breaks. Rivera gets tired. He no longer completely denies involvement, but claims he doesn't remember what happened. Says it's just how his body works, blocking traumatic memories. And then the heavy hitters enter the room. Agent Trent Valletta, Steve Kiwi, and an FBI officer. They play out the classic good cop, bad cop routine. Agent Valletta takes the role of the good cop. He holds Rivera's hands, looks him straight in the eyes, and very gently, like an old friend, urges him to tell the truth. Hey, Christian, I understand you're trying. You have a serious problem. We understand you because we've seen this before. People with this kind of issue can forget everything. Listen, I think you're scared. You're scared because you kind of know what happened. We've been doing this a long time, and we appreciate that you're being honest with us. We can work this out so the family can get their daughter back, and that soft manipulation yields the first piece of truth. Rivera admits he liked Mollie. He turned around to approach her, but the girl got scared and said she would call the police. So he claims he simply got back in his car and drove away, without harming her. At that moment, the FBI agent has his moment. He suddenly changes his tone and begins aggressively pressuring the suspect. What is this nonsense? You're messing everything up right now. Tell the truth, stop lying, we're not idiots. The tension in the room reaches its peak, and Rivera breaks. He asks for all the men to leave. He's ready to tell everything, but only to Officer Pamela Romero. The FBI agents and detectives step out of the interrogation room. Only 2 people remain, 24-year-old undocumented Mexican immigrant Christian Rivera and Officer Pamela Romero. Rivera is terrified. He breaks down and asks, what's going to happen to me? Pamela answers honestly, I can't tell you what's going to happen to you, Christian. Why did he choose to trust her? First, she's a woman. Instinctively, Bahena Rivera isn't afraid of her. And second, she speaks to him in his native Spanish. She feels like one of his own, and that makes it psychologically easier for him to tell the truth. And he starts talking. I remember we fought. Romero nods. Okay. I remember I dragged her into my car. The officer doesn't take her eyes off him. Okay. There was blood, but I can't say whether she was alive or dead. Rivera also admits the most important thing. He says he knows where Mollie Tibbetts is. I remember we were in a cornfield. I remember that's where I left her. The next day, August 21st, more than a month after the cheerful college student disappeared, Christian Bahena Rivera leads investigators to a vast cornfield. The condition of the body after prolonged exposure to the scorching sun is horrifying. Medical examiners count more than 10 stab wounds, but due to time and heat, they cannot determine the most disturbing detail, whether there was any sexual contact. No trace of Christian semen is found on or in the body. However, the position in which Tibbetts is found suggests that very motive. Her clothes are removed, her legs are spread apart, her bra is pushed up, exposing her chest, but unfortunately, that can no longer be established or proven in court. As a result, Rivera is officially charged only with the kidnapping and death of 20-year-old Tibbetts. Authorities arrest the man on first-degree charges. The trial of Christian Bahena Rivera begins only on May 17, 2021. The delay is due to the COVID pandemic, but even 3 years later, many eyes are fixed on what's happening in the courtroom. And here, politics enters the picture. The case of Mollie Tibbetts becomes a tool in the hands of those opposed to undocumented immigrants. In the lead-up to elections, this case is used as an argument. However, in the courtroom, politics doesn't matter. What unfolds there is a true battle for justice for Mollie Tibbetts. A battle, not against a group of immigrants, but against a specific individual whose guilt prosecutors intend to prove beyond any doubt. Mr. Claver, the Iowa State prosecutor, delivers the opening statement, Mollie Tibbetts. This case is her story. The story of her disappearance and her death. Ladies and gentlemen, here is what I expect the evidence in this case will show. First, video. Video showing the defendant's black Chevrolet Malibu at the time and in the area where Mollie was last seen. Second, Mollie's blood in the defendant's trunk. And third, the defendant's own confession. His admission that he saw Mollie, that he liked her, that he drove alongside her, that Mollie threatened to call the police, which angered him, leading to his fight with Mollie. Prosecutors are confident in their case. Rivera himself led them to the body. Her blood and DNA were found in the trunk of his car, and Christian confessed to everything. Rivera's defense delays their opening statement. Their reluctance to speak right away suggests one thing. Either they lack strong arguments, or they're preparing a dirty trick. Nevertheless, the trial begins. And the first to take the stand is Dalton Jack, the boyfriend of the late Mollie Tibbetts. The young man says that after losing his beloved, he could not remain the same. He enlisted in the military, trying to cope with the pain. He is now a sergeant in the 82nd Airborne Division. The prosecutor asks him about his alibi, anticipating speculation from Rivera's attorneys. He wants the jury to hear Dalton Jack was in Dubuque and physically could not have harmed Mollie. And as soon as cross-examination begins, it becomes clear the prosecutor's concerns were justified. Rivera's attorneys try to convince the jury that the nice young man in uniform has a dark past and equally dark secrets. They bring up an old affair. They try to prove he cheated on Mollie and hid it from police. Didn't you think it was important to tell law enforcement that you cheated on the love of your life? The attorney presses. I was 19. It was the beginning of the relationship. I messed up once. Mollie knew about it and we worked through it, Dalton answers honestly. But the defense doesn't stop. They try to plant doubt in the jurors' minds, portraying the victim's boyfriend as an aggressive psychopath. Would you say you have a temper? Did you like to fight? Yes. When I was 16 or 17, I got into a lot of fights and had a temper, the young man admits. But this cheap performance doesn't work. Even the jurors' faces show clear skepticism, especially after Dalton Jack's rock-solid alibi is presented. The store receipt, hotel records, phone data, and billing logs. He's clean as a whistle. The facts were undeniable. A chance encounter on an empty road, a split-second burst of anger over a threat to call the police, and the life of a cheerful college student ended in the trunk of a stranger's car. Christian Bahena Rivera was found guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The case of Mollie Tibbetts forever changed the quiet town of Brooklyn and became a symbol of how modern technology, surveillance cameras, smartwatches, and phone records, leaves criminals with no chance to disappear into the darkness, even if they try to hide their tracks among the endless cornfields of Iowa.